All right, Miles, let's talk once again about the Alabama Crimson Tide. This is one of the no doubt permanent blue blood dynasties in all of college football, especially under the reign of Nick Saban. He's created Alabama into an absolute force year in and year out. And we've got news, a story that shows that all the smart heads in college football, everyone who takes a deep dive in this universe, thinks that Alabama is once again gearing towards another national championship, and then this dynasty is not done.
Yeah, Nick, and you speak of the word national championship, and Alabama fans are no stranger to that. They've seen a ton of them. But, I'm going to ask you, Alabama fans, probably the hardest question you've had in a while. What is your favorite? What is your favorite national championship that Alabama has ever won? Go back through the annals, think about it, and let us know in the comments below. What is your favorite one and why? Don't just give us, oh, I like this one. Tell us why it's your favorite in the comments below. But, Nick, what do you got on Alabama, and why are they so good?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things when you're in a program like Alabama is that the standards are so high. And a lot of the talk out of Tuscaloosa last year was how disappointing of a year it was, right? It's like, hey, listen, we didn't even make the SEC championship game. We didn't make the playoff. What a dud. What if a disappointment season, despite getting a big bowl win, a big New Year's Day 6 kind of bowl win. But it looks like the momentum in terms of the outside forces are not being quiet. No one is doubting Alabama forward. So this is according to WSRadio.com. I'm going to read from the report here, Mize. While previewing the 2023 season, ESPN's stable of scribes share their early playoff predictions for the 2023 season. Of the 8 writers polled, 7 had Georgia back in the playoff for a third consecutive season. But here's the big thing, Mize. The Bulldogs were the most popular pick along with Alabama, which also appeared on 7 ballots. All right, Maya. So what does that mean? It means that the ESPN writers of college football, the guys who obviously is their job to analyze, watch football, college football across the spectrum, their predictions of who was going to make the college football playoff. You had Georgia back-to-back national championship, the clear number one force in all college football, and especially the SEC, tied with Alabama, coming off its worst season in a decade, losing both of its coordinators, offense and defensive, losing its Heisman, quarterback to the NFL, right? You had all these things. Georgia at its power, at its strength, at its best in forever, the best Georgia program has ever been, and Alabama at its weakest in a decade. And all the smart heads, all the people, all the writers think Alabama's on the same footing as Georgia in terms of odds to get to the college football playoff. Miles, to me, that is a huge indicator that Alabama is not done and that Alabama is still feared. And there's good reason to fear them after their heck of a recruiting class, number one, according to 247sports.com. Miles, give me your thoughts on their decision here to essentially tie Alabama with odds to make the playoff with Georgia and just everything with the Crimson Tide football program right now.
Oh, it's insanely smart, Nick, because you think about it. Alabama, you say they're at a low point almost. Georgia at its power. And Alabama just misses out on the college football playoff on a couple of last-second plays. There's the last-second field goal by Tennessee, the walk-off 2-point conversion in overtime against LSU. So they're just like the hair on their chin from making it back into the college football playoff. They win one of those games, they're back. And, Nick, you mentioned the number one overall recruiting class. That is big. We expected that. But, you got to do it. If someone expects it, you still have to go out and implement that. So they were able to do that. But, Nick, they've only ever missed the Final Four of the college football playoff once in the college football playoff era. And that was back in 2019. And guess what happened the next year? In 2020, they came back and absolutely blew everybody out of the water. So I expect them to come back again with a vengeance in this 2023 season. They're going to hold back nothing. This is going to be an Alabama team that is out for blood, out for vengeance. As I said, this is a Nick Saban team that is going to be a team possessed, and I would not want to be anyone in the path of Alabama this season.
I love the parallels between 2019 and 2020 because if you look back then, you had Alabama's elite going to the NFL quarterback. Of course, Tua, he gets injured. That kind of throws their season for a loop, right? Another SEC program goes undefeated. LSU has a great season. And then the next year, the backup, a new quarterback, this time it was Mac Jones, takes Alabama undefeated through the national championship. You kind of get the same flow last year, right? Obviously, Georgia rolled through, won another national title. Alabama had injuries with Bryce Young at quarterback. It kind of had issues with them the rest of the season. Now you got next year. It's going to be a new quarterback, new environment. I really like what you're going here, Miles. I do think Nick Saban, he finds a way. He's a lot like all these great competitors, whether it's Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, those kind of guys. He finds a way to create chips to put on his shoulder. Everyone jokes about the rat poison thing, right? But I think right now you're going to see a really motivated Nick Saban and a really motivated Alabama Crimson Tide football program out to prove a point that they're still the big dog in the SEC and in the country. And look, look, there's no reason to not already doing that, right? And I think Lane Kiffin pointed this out. It's like, how does a program that does not have an offensive coordinator, that does not have a defensive coordinator, have the #1 recruiting class in the country by a big margin, right? They had a big margin over Georgia. They had, according to 24/7 Sports, it was about 12 total points. That's a lot. And to have that big of a margin without your coordinators, to me, that shows, obviously, Alabama program. It's Alabama, right? So they can recruit at a high level, of course. But it just shows to me how motivated Nick Saban, how much he was on the grind, how motivated that staff is, how much they're grinding to make sure what happened last year does not happen again. And right now, if I'm a Crimson Tide fan, and if you're looking for a turnaround, I think you're not very long away from getting it. I would not want to play Alabama, even if you're an LSU or Georgia or any of these programs feeling really good about yourself next year, because I think they're going to be a bigger force than even a lot of people realize.